This is the between part 12. We are absent a little bit today, but I think that's okay. We shall do a, excuse me, a bit of recapping here. I'm going to just do a quick Hunter recap, just kind of calling out your conditions at the moment. So, Dr. Tagore, you have Solomon's Wisdom. Mr. Gennadios, you have nothing right now. And Mr. Turner, you have Most Beloved, The Song, and Frightened. And then we are going to take a look at the active threats. So right now, the creature of Cremorne Gardens, you have answered you've answered at least the first question. Did you answer the second question as well? I don't recall. By answering like what it wants. I feel like we did that too. I don't know. Maybe I
Yeah,
was saying.
the creature wants whatchamacallit, it's they want the mastermind person's name. I can't remember.
Theodora, yeah.
Yeah, they want her because she is the former lover of her that was tossed over the boat.
That's right. Okay, very good. And so, yeah, so you answered that as well then, right?
Mhm.
Yeah. Okay, so then the creature of Cremorne Gardens is ready to be resolved. The Waitley camera is ready to be resolved. You've sorted out how to do that. And you're right in the middle of having a scene with the seamstress and the sister Sendula. So that is interesting as well. I have a couple of notes about the seamstress. So right now, we have three questions and opportunities here for the seamstress. How is this fey creature ensnaring her victims? Basically, it's complexity 4. You can resolve the threat by being used as bait to lure her to you. The slightly harder question is, what is the creature's real name, which would give you power over the creature, and you can resolve it that way. And then the most complex is, what does the creature truly want? This would allow you to strike a bargain with the creature according to Fey customs, which would also resolve the threat and also have probably long-term story implications. You have, it says you have no clues so far, so I'm going to assume that's correct. And then, well, you do have a ton of side characters that made an appearance in this night phase that we're in the middle of. So we have well, Sir Richard Harlow is the initial victim that kind of brought all this to your attention. We know about Abigail Walker, who was Sir Richard's sort of confidant at the Blue Feather Society. That's Feather. And Hazel Beaumont is the actual Fey creature, has a shop on Seville Row. The sisters Sendula are her shop attendees or shop attendants. Well, they're weirdos. Vincent Pomeroy, Violet Thorne, Orrin Blackwood, and another person, a young woman, Sylvia Belrose. They are all guests at this impromptu fashion show being thrown at Hargrave House that none of you knew about before it started. We actually saw Hazel Beaumont in the secret laboratory / crawl space with Dr. Tagore, sort of commenting on the artistry of Dr. Tagore's work. She also gave you some silver thread. That's very, very fine and strong. The rest of it was just sort of a comic scene with the other three hunters dealing with guests showing up sitcom style, ringing the bell. Yeah, that's kind of where we're at this moment. So does anyone have any questions about anything that's going on right now? We're at a point in the, or very nearly at a point in the campaign where you will not get new threats. You currently have 14 mastermind clues. Regrettably, this is one less than you need. So if the day phase comes and you don't have that last mastermind clue, another threat is getting layered on top of the campaign. If you can figure out a way to get a mastermind clue before then, you will lock it into place and there will be no more new threats. That's up to you, but that's sort of what's going on with that. the best way to do this to ensure it happens is to try to get an information move and then bump it up. So yeah, I considered just giving you a freebie, but no, I'm gonna make you work for it. So otherwise you're gonna get another threat to cope with. So that's something to keep in mind for the next few scenes that we have here. And with all that said, I think we're ready to go. Let's begin with Mr. Gennadius and Mr. Turner. We'll assume that for the remainder of this scene, Willoughby is preoccupied with getting everyone drinks and making sure they're comfortable and stuff. So that's where Willoughby is. Mr. Gennadius, you are down there in your fashion-forward look. People are kind of fawning over you a little bit. There's this new person, Vincent Pomeroy, has joined the scene. I'm curious what you're doing right now. Everyone's just sort of waiting for the star of the show at this point.
As much as he's enjoying and basking in the attention, I think he'll also be trying to discern how this was organized, who passed this information on.
How are you doing so?
By just trying to obliquely ask, oh, and who had the honor of inviting you?
Like it, very good. Do an information move with presence, and you don't have any conditions, so
yeah. I do not. 6.
How regrettable.
Off to a great start.
We'll come back to that. Mr. Turner, what are you doing right now?
I think I'm doing something similar, trying to discern like the details of this, maybe from Vincent, since I've already kind of established a little bit of a rapport.
He specifically said, "I like you." So
yeah, there you go. I'll use that.
Indeed. What are you saying, Jim? How are you trying to coax it out of them?
I'll get some alcohol and give that to him, and then I'll just be pressing him for details because it is a last minute foray for the house and we are ill-informed. Only certain members of the staff know what's going on, and I'm as excited as he is about what is going to happen.
I like it. Take the information move with presence. I might put you at disadvantage. Let me take a look at your conditions. No, I think most beloved would cancel out all the rest of it. You have a certain appeal. Go for it.
All right. Presence is 1. 11.
Can you even afford to bump it with Janus Mask? You have 1 mark.
Yeah, I could do it. Let's do it.
All right. Mark your last Mask of the Past, and that will bump it up to a full-on 12, which will give you a regular clue plus that last 15th mastermind clue. We shall come back to that as well. Dr. Tagore, Hazel Beaumont, I'll remind you, she's covered in like layers of fashion, which is an interesting look, right? Makes her look bigger than she probably should be. She's almost like imagine one of those tissue paper cozy dolls, right? Like, kind of like very like kind of large layers of fine fabric kind of flouncing out around her in your little crawl space. She says, "Oh yeah, good point, Drew. In the chat, there we also have the threat mask as well. So yeah, don't forget that there is one of those left. The mask of it has
glamour.
A mask.
Mask of glamour.
Glamour, yeah. I should write that down. Yep, there it is. That's also an option. Mr. Turner, if you'd rather mark that instead of your Janus mask.
I'd rather just mark mine because I'm looking to burn out. And with Drew's character around, it poses a good opportunity possibly
Okay.
for that to happen.
So, yeah. She says, well, Dr. Tagore, I have to make my appearance at this little soiree soon enough. I hope you'll invite me back to look at the progress you're making with your creation.
I got a quick out of character question. I don't remember. I don't think I'm even aware of anything going on downstairs, right?
No, because
Okay.
you went upstairs before all that. You're hearing the doorbell ringing, of course, but that's it.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah.
So soiree. Didn't know we were having an engagement this evening, but sometimes my duty calls. I have other tasks that pull me away from the social events. But looking at the spool of thread you've given me, I would love to have you back to see the fruits of my labors. How do I contact you?
She says, well, you can always come by my shop in Seville Row. I'm most often available in the evenings. In the day, I'm very, very focused on my work, of course, creating daring and avant-garde fashions for London's elite. But of course, there are other ways of reaching me as well.
Go on, please.
And here I shall momentarily violate our lines and veils since Sarah's not here. She says, find a spider web in the corner of your rooms and whisper to its occupant that you wish to see me, and I shall appear.
Fascinating. This is like a new form of a telegraph or something. I like it. I will certainly test your method whenever the need arises. I would like to, if possible, commission your workshop to create a garment for my creature. I mean my sister here that I'm creating.
Oh yes, I would be very delighted to do such a thing. Perhaps before the night is out, I shall return and take her measurements, such as they are at the moment.
Lovely. That sounds perfect.
Let's go back to those die rolls, and then we'll go to the... No, we'll do it next time. Let's go to the unseen. Okay, back at the Four Magpies, Drew. As last orders are called, and people start to file out of the pub, how do we see Polly looking after her customers with words or action where needed?
As people are filing out, there is a small group pushing past them into it, and it seems to be a younger man held upright between two older ones, and he is looking fairly rough, like he's had a bit of a beating. And Polly approaches, and soon enough a small mob is forming to head out back into the night.
Very good. Mr. Turner, let's talk about your clues. So you were kind of questioning Mr. Pomeroy about like how did you hear about this? But what do you know about this fashion show being put on? And he says, well, I have to confess, Mr. Turner, I learned about it in a dream. Do you think that's very weird?
Not as strange as you might think.
Yes. Well, in the dream, I was looking out the window at night, and the moon was shining bright. But the light cast down upon the earth was strange. It formed a path, and I followed it. I followed the moonlit path. And there at the end of the moonlit path, upon a glowing white pedestal, was the invitation card. I thought, how incredibly strange. But when I woke up the next day, the invitation card was there on my nightstand, and I thought perhaps that my servant must have put it there and I must have seen it, and so of course I dreamed about it, but I hadn't put two and two together yet. I was delighted, of course. But then the most unusual thing happened tonight. It seemed to me that the moon was creating that similar path, a streak of moonlight heading in the direction of this place. I was already coming, of course, because of my invitation, but I thought, what a strange coincidence that the moon should be behaving so funny, or that I should perceive it to be such. But that's your clue, a moonlit path. Sure. Type that real quick.
I understand now why you're so dead set in coming in. It was fate that you should be here.
Do you believe in such things, Mr. Turner? In fate?
Only so far as the force of which I can butt heads against.
Do you think there are actually 3 women weaving our fates for us, like so much thread and cloth, a tapestry of our lives?
Certainly coincidence can't explain everything, could it?
And then there's a ring at the door. Ding dong, ding dong, ding dong. Willoughby's nowhere around, Mr. Turner. What do you do?
I'll hold up my hand to him like a 1-minute thing and go and open the door.
Theodora Brathwaite is standing in the doorway. She has with her a man who one of you may have seen. It might have been Willoughby. I can't remember who saw this fellow, but kind of a stout person, always spoken questions. He had a piece on him. Was that another Game of the Between? I think I remember someone encountering him.
Was he with the little boy when he broke in?
No, you would have encountered him. I can't recall. I could have swore you encountered him already. In any case, she has this guy with her and tweed suit, kind of broad-shouldered, clearly some sort of bodyguard or henchman. And she's there in her signature sapphire blue getup with her choker, the sapphire jewel. And she says, "Mr. Turner, set to
Lovely
opening
to see
doors
you.
now."
Oh, well, we have a little bit of a foray, all hands on deck.
Ah, I see. I hope you don't mind that I offered up Hargrave House to host this little gathering.
Of course you did. No, I suppose I can't mind, can I?
I suppose not. And she comes in and she says, "So what are we having to drink tonight, Mr. Turner?"
It looks like all the stores are being brought out. I'm sure we could find anything to your liking.
She says, "Oh, well, wonderful. Well, my liking is for whiskey. No, let's go with rum. A bit of a reminder of my younger days." And she
Sure.
waits expectantly.
Oh, okay. I guess I'll go set out and look for it.
That's your last mastermind clue.
That she likes whiskey.
No, that Theodora arranged the party for the fashion
Oh.
show.
That makes sense. I was like, ooh, whiskey.
She comes in. "Mr. Gennadios, you look striking as always. Are we still not being friends? Are you still angry at me?"
He'll look at her with a chill smile and say, "It seems you have more interesting friends than I."
She comes up to you and takes your hand. This is your 6 minus. She comes up to you and she whispers, she says, "One of these people here tonight is going to die. I'm going to let you choose. Is it going to be Violet Thorne? She's had a few years under her belt. Surely her life isn't going to get much more interesting than this. Or Orrin Blackwood. He's a hack of a playwright. London won't miss him. Mr. Pomeroy, completely arrogant and snobbish. I could use a few less like him in London. Or Ms. Belrose, beautiful, haughty. She has her whole life ahead of her. And I suppose in some ways that makes the choice of her all the more controversial.
He'll smile with just a little bit too many teeth showing and say, "It's a pity your list is so limited."
Well, I could probably arrange for someone else, but I like these four. Make your choice, Mr. Gennadios. What do you care about them? These mortals, they're nothing to you.
True enough. And I will remind you, lady, that you owe me a favor. I will collect.
Or do I? Oh, I owe so many favors. Favors are a sort of currency in this city. So, who do you choose?
Blackwood.
A fine choice. Scar your reflection. How does the statue change?
The red in the veins of the carved hands blossoms to look a little more like bloodstains.
Mr. Dr. Tagore, you can actually follow Hazel Beaumont down to where everybody is in the sort of reception hall where this is taking place. It's one of those scenes where as soon as Hazel Beaumont appears at the top of the stairs, everyone begins to clap like, you know, this is the person we all came to see. Theodora pulls Mr. Turner and Mr. Gennadios close, and she says to both of you, after she gets her drink from you, of course, Mr. Turner, she says, "Isn't this very exciting? I, for a time, had a use for Ms. Beaumont, but our arrangement didn't go anywhere. Nevertheless, I made a promise to her, and this is me fulfilling my promise."
She had a dream that she would have a fashion show at Hargrave House.
No. I told her that I would find a very, very, very fine, worthy meal.
You seem to be in the business of finding your friends' meals.
Yes. Yes, we're getting very, very close to the most decadent banquet of all. Let me assure you of that, Mr. Gennadios. At this point, Hazel Beaumont comes down and she says, which one of you will be transformed tonight? And Theodora walks up to Mr. Blackwood and gives him a gentle tap and a push forward from the crowd. Hazel smiles. And the lights in the room, the gas lamps, any candles that are lit in the chandeliers, they all dim, leaving just a nimbus of light around Mr. Blackwood. You can't quite see Ms. Beaumont. You can't see anyone else in the room around you. But then suddenly, where Ms. Beaumont is standing in the darkness, you see dozens of glittering red eyes in the darkness. And you hear a sticky, wet sound. And the sisters Syndulla step into the nimbus of light, and they reach forward toward the multitude of glowing red eyes, and they pull forth from the shadows strands of silk. And they pull it forth, and they begin to drape Mr. Blackwood in it. They begin to wrap him in it. And he seems terrified and excited all at once. How do the rest of you feel?
I think I'm more frightened.
Dr. Tagore?
Yeah, part kind of perplexed and amazed at the construction of things, part fearful for this fellow.
Mr. Gennadios?
Fascinated. This is very outside of anything he's seen before.
They continue to draw forth the silk, and they continue to wrap Mr. Blackwood in it. They wrap his arms, they wrap his legs, they wrap his torso. They begin to wrap his neck and his face. And the whole time they're stroking his cheeks and saying cooing, calming words so that he doesn't panic, that he clearly wants to. And then all of the lights go out. There's a cry in the darkness. And that ends the night phase. Let's go to the dawn.
I'm relieved there is a dawn.
Indeed, yeah. The existence of the dawn phase means you did make it to the dawn, which is exciting. Let's go to the dawn. No threats were resolved, so we won't be collecting rewards yet, but we shall go to the dawn questions. And everyone, a question, we all did answer a capital Q question, so everyone will get an experience point for that. And then we'll just go through the rest here. Dr. Tagore, did you experience an echo in the night? If you can remember back to last session, I guess.
Yeah, it was the tucking of the hair behind the ear.
Yes, I remember that. Yeah, take an XP. Did you have a conversation with the child while no one was looking? You had a conversation about the child, which feels close in spirit. No. Did you dismiss the possibility of a supernatural explanation despite everything you've experienced?
Not really.
Mr. Gennadios, did you experience an echo in the night?
I'm pretty sure I was going for that with him frantically putting makeup on in the mirror.
Oh yes. What was the echo there? You'll remind me.
The
It's
first
hard.
paint the scene with a makeup application.
That's right. Yeah. It's hard when we have a gap. And this is a 2-week gap because we took last week off. Did you secretly? So go ahead. Did you secretly show a vulnerable side to someone?
No.
Did you express a clear preference for the beautiful over the mundane?
That's what I was going for with him immediately going, oh, fashion show? I'm in.
Yeah, go for it. Yeah, take that. Mr. Turner, this is you're pretty close to the end of yours here. Did you do an echo of the night?
I don't think so.
Did you have a face-to-face encounter with a dark entity?
I don't remember.
I don't remember either.
I don't
think you did.
I think I was just answering questions and
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah, I don't think you did. Did you counsel someone using your supernatural affinities as the basis for advice? I don't think we've ever seen that one.
Well, I did do it before when I was talking about the hanging.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. That's right. Good point. Let's go to the next part. You can mark new dawn questions if you wish, or change them. Playbooks and custom moves. We don't have the factotums, so we'll skip that for now. We'll skip night work. The resurrectionist, though, what'd you have the resurrectionist go do, Dr. Tagore?
I had sent them on a quest for guts.
Guts sounds good. Give us a little scene about the guts.
Oh goodness. We got more of a kind of a pleasant memory of Dottie and I as children, just overindulging, eating way too many samosa, and our bellies kind of full, and that painful, like, oh my god, I ate way too much sort of thing, and then trying to poke each other to like play a game of teasing your sister or brother, trying to get them to throw up on themselves or something, like poke, haha, take that. I think that's just it.
Good. And Janus Mask prompts. I think we have something from Mr. Turner. Narrate a flashback to an event that influenced you to leave the coven for good.
Mm-hmm. When last I narrated it, I had said that I showed the coven my little ritual with my angelic friend, and I think they were awed and impressed by that. But later that evening, when I was going to bed, I heard some rustling, and I think they had come for me because it was maybe too powerful and diametrically opposed to what they were about, basically. And so I think I had to flee that place. And as I was running down the hallway, we see like all the braziers and stuff like that coming aflame and lighting my way. And when I reached the I think I described it as like a mansion or something like that, where I was taken by that rich fellow. And when I come to the entryway, we get a shot of a young Turner in probably just like sleepwear, raising a fist to the place and say, "Y'all be sorry," and shaking his fist with the lights glowing, and maybe the end of the scene is like a lamplight going so bright that it shatters.
A nice little nice little echo for what ultimately did in the coven, right? So I thought that's pretty good. You satisfied your promise, ultimately, we know. Very good. Thank you. And with that, we're switching right over to the day phase. No new threats. Threats are locked in. Basically, once you've resolved all the existing threats, you'll face Theodora at that point. So, regular scenes commence, and this day phase commences immediately after, like, the previous night phase. Like, it's the very next morning. You all wake up in the salon, still in the clothes you were wearing last night. You have no memory of the evening after the lights went out. There is still one guest, Mr. Pomeroy. Mr. Pomeroy and Mr. Turner ended up on a fainting couch together at some point, and they are snoozing, or Mr. Pomeroy is still kind of snoozing there. Let's just pick up the scene there.
So is there evidence of a sort of a wild evening, or?
Maybe it's, you'll see like used drink glasses laying around. You might even see a few strands of silky fibers here and there, but we don't really know what happened beyond that. So. You're all still dressed for what it's worth. So.
So do I remember who Pomeroy is?
Oh yeah. He's the one.
Oh.
The one who you met at the handsome cab at the end there.
Yeah, but we don't we not remember the events of the evening?
Oh, just not past when the lights went out.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay.
And you don't see any other guests. The only guest who's still there is Mr. Pomeroy.
Okay. So I'll wake Pomeroy and say that we need to get him out, because if Willoughby sees him lounging on the decor, they'll have it with him.
And the other two, everybody's there in the same room.
Yeah. What do you all think happened to Mr. Blackwood? That was the strangest fashion show I've ever seen. Not that I've necessarily seen any, but it's not what I envisioned.
Dead. Alexander will kind of push himself up onto his elbows and look around and kind of stretch, look over at Dr. Tagore, and very dead.
What makes you say that? I'm pressing in that I wouldn't have heard the conversation with you and Brathwaite. So.
I was asked to choose one to die. I chose him, and the Lady Brathwaite is, if nothing else, true to at least that word.
Mr. Pomeroy, upon hearing this, he leans forward and says, "Thank you very much for not choosing me."
In truth, my dear man, I couldn't remember your name.
Sick burn. He says, well, this has all been very fascinating and grotesque. I guess I should hail a cab and be on my way. And he sort of gets up and says, "What a strange evening. Very strange evening. I hope no one is actually dead."
Oh, surely not.
Will you show me to the door, Mr. Turner?
Of course. And I hope fate finds you somewhere much more pleasant today.
You go to the door and you open the door and you find Mr. Blackwood hanging upside down in front of the door, wrapped in a cocoon of thick silk-like spider webbing, I guess. His face is exposed in the bundle, completely jaundiced and hollowed out. The eyes are just little black withered nuggets in the sockets. And there's a sort of black fluid dripping, drip, 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 from his lips down into the stones, or down into the cobblestones. Mr. Pomeroy says, "Well, that answers that, I suppose."
You may want to hail a cab from the corner. I have a feeling we'll be here for some time waiting for Scotland Yard.
I'm curious, Dr. Tagore and Mr. Gennadius, once you realize what's going on, what do you do?
I sort of need Willoughby to help cut this fellow down. I feel like before the neighbors see if it's not too late, get him down, get him back in the house, so we have less explaining to do.
At a certain point, a street person who was just wandering by, he walks up to the scene and he sees what I've just described, and he says, "Oh my, he doesn't look too good, huh?"
Oh, and an American was visiting, and they're always full of these practical jokes. They call this one Halloween. It's some holiday, I don't know.
He says, I think he's dead. Either that or that's some fantastic bit of waxwork.
On loan from Madame Tussauds, as I understand.
Mr. Pomeroy says, "Well, I better go. I'll just walk the rest of the way." And he begins to leave. And the street person, sensing the sort of tension in the air, also says, "Yes, those Americans, And he also begins to leave, leaving the three of you there with the body hanging upside down in the doorway.
Guess we'll bring it inside, maybe to the trophy room. Should we call the
Okay,
police?
another one for the wall.
Should we call the
Okay.
police, or
I feel like no.
I'd like to at least try to discern what kind of ritual it is that we were a part of or witness to, or whatever the case may be.
And I'm curious about the strength of this thread that was holding him up. Is this a single strand holding an entire human body, or?
Yeah.
So technically, physically, incredibly tough and perhaps useful. I kind of want to retain some of this for experimental purposes.
You can tell that fundamentally it's the same as the spools of silver thread that she gave you.
And they're easily cut.
They can be cut, yes.
Well, Dr. Tagore, if there was ever a call for an autopsy.
Sure. Yeah, we can do an autopsy. I think we might know the answer already, but let's try and do it. See what we can learn about the seamstress and their methods. Did we see the body of Richard Harlow, or just hear about it?
You just heard about it, but it was very much like this. He was found wrapped up and he was found hollowed out, like his innards were. He was like a husk once they cut him open.
Yeah,
you discern the practical, and I'll discern the occult. Perfect. Work together.
Let's do an autopsy then, right there on the table in the dining room.
You have an infirmary, so
yeah, I think we could move it.
Right, to the infirmary.
Mr. Jonas, what are you doing in the meantime?
I think he'd like to take a picture or two, if he may. Pull out his big boxy camera once the body hits the table and get in real close to those shriveled up raisin eyes.
Yeah, indeed. Okay, so fun with bodies. Good. Let's say you take the time you are going to cut him open, Dr. Tagore.
Sure, I think so. Yeah.
Sally's scalpel will make quick work of the threads. So take the information move. Do you have the one that lets you look at bodies, that special move? Or is that? Yeah, you do have that, don't you? When you examine a corpse, you may ask two of the following questions. How does this person die? I'll answer with a clue. What would an untrained eye overlook here? I'll answer with a clue. And can I take a body part for the child? Okay.
I'm choosing 2 of those.
Yep,
So
2. Yeah.
let's do how did this person die? And I feel like this is a great time to take a body part. It's if possible, salvage the heart from this person. So information move with which trait?
Oh, there's no. I just answer. So there's no. It's. I don't need the information move because beneath the skin trumps it. So.
Oh, okay, got it.
And yeah, the heart is there. The heart is intact. It is. It's very. It needs to be revivified, perhaps with water or fresh blood. It's kind of like a piece of jerky right now. But you can definitely restore it and use it if you wish. We'll get to that in a moment. Let's talk about how did the person die. And at the outset, it's pretty straightforward. It looks like he was essentially like all of his vital fluids were drained out of him, not just blood, but the humors, the mucuses, the pleural fluids, things like that were all just sort of like sucked out. You can see some puncture wounds on the neck, which also indicate this. And also, intriguingly, you'll find something else. You will find inside the husk a book.
That's strange.
The book appears to have been placed inside the body. There is a part of the flesh that was sewn back up at some point during the evening. And if you take a look at the book is a book of fairy tales bound in pale blue leather with silver embossing. And there is commentary and corrections scrawled in the margins in an elegant script in an unknown language. That's a clue.
All right.
Note that.
I just typed it in.
Okay, very good. And the heart. Give me a little scene about your sister as you sort of bring the heart back to life.
Ooh. I'm picturing us as children, kind of an early understanding of death and mortality. That we had a. I should check our lines and veils here. Hang on a second. Do we have anything about animals? Yeah, I'm not going too gruesome here anyway. That the family dog died, and we did our best to try to resuscitate it by trying to kind of massage the chest cavity and get the heart pumping again, and to no avail, obviously. But for me as a child, that kind of set me down the path of how can you bring life back to flesh like this. This shouldn't be the end of it. It should be easier to do somehow.
Good. Let's take a 5-minute break. We'll come back and continue the day phase. I imagine Dr. Tagore's inquiries will take a little bit of time. Probably by the time it's all wrapped up, it's early in the afternoon. Mr. Turner, you happen to be just in the hallway, the entry hall, maybe Willoughby has just taken away a great large tray full of empty port glasses and champagne glasses and other things when the bell rings. Ding dong, ding dong, ding dong.
Do they ring multiple times?
Oh, just no, it just rings.
Oh,
Once.
okay. Okay. Well, I'll answer it.
You see a man, a fussy looking man with a fussy little mustache, with a fussy little suit. You might recognize him as Detective Inspector Pettigrew. In any case, he introduces himself as Detective Inspector Pettigrew. And you will know him, if nothing else. We met him really early in the campaign. You did, but also he was your contact person with the Figs, and so you have like a lot of connections to D.I. Pettigrew. And he says, Mr. Turner, very fine to see you. I never had a chance to express my thanks and the thanks of my colleagues for helping us bring down that ghoulish Fig family.
You're very welcome. What can I do for you?
Well, it occurred to me that I've never actually come by Hargrave House. I thought I would stop, pay a visit. Can I come in?
And nothing prompted this at all.
Well, we may have been visited by a certain Mr. Vincent Pomeroy several hours ago, and he indicated that there might be foul play afoot here at Hargrave House. I thought, of course, that's absolutely ridiculous. That's not the sort of thing that the Hargrave House I know gets up to. In any case, do you mind if I come in?
I suppose not. And I'll announce him quite loudly to the house.
He says, there, Mr. Turner. Who else is here right now?
Well, just the people you've met.
Oh, refresh my memory.
Willoughby, Mr. Gennadios, and Dr. Tagore.
Very good, very good. Well, do you mind if I have a look around?
Well, we have had a party, so hopefully you're not going to judge us too harshly.
Oh,
You don't need an escort to find your place. It's a quite large
don't
place.
worry about my judgments, Mr. Turner. I dragged 3 prostitutes out of the river last night. There's not much that could happen here that would turn my stomach, let me assure you, he says as he's already looking around. He goes into the trophy room, says, my, look at this place. It's as fascinating as Madame Tussauds. It's a very interesting little objet d'art you have here, Mr. Turner.
Yes, well, I'm sure you know that this place and its decor far predates its members.
Mr. Turner, are you okay? You seem to be very nervous, perhaps even frightened about something.
Well, I had quite the nightmare.
Mr. Turner, if you know something about the alleged ghoulish happenings last night that Mr. Pomeroy alluded to, you should probably tell me.
What, at a player level, what is so? Do I have like a reasonable amount of information to discern how we would be treated by this person if we did come clean?
I don't know. I don't think so. I mean, I think I'd like the day move regardless, because you're having to keep your calm here a little bit. What are you afraid is going to happen if you are not able to keep yourself together here?
He'll jump to the wrong assertions, you know.
Make the move with composure at disadvantage.
Composure 0. At disadvantage would be 4. That's a 4.
He is. I think he hears the activity coming from the infirmary, which is on the ground floor, but a little deeper into the house. And he says, "Oh, what's going on down there?"
Does he wait?
No. He proceeds apace towards the infirmary.
Am I right in remembering that we had set up like a secret door from the infirmary to my storage room, essentially, where I've got my child under construction?
Yes. Yes, you have a little ladder going up there. Mr. Gennadios, you hear the conversation downstairs. What are you doing?
He will go and see if he can't make himself useful. And I think as he turns the corner, I'm going to activate Giveth on the good inspector.
Interesting. He stops when you sort of step in front of him. And he says, "Oh, Mr. Gennadios, it's a funny thing. Mr. Pomeroy said that, well, this alleged murder victim last night, that you chose him to be murdered. That's rather a dreadful thought. I can't imagine you would do anything like that."
He will approach the man looking down his nose at him and say, "I don't believe Mr. Pomeroy mentioned any such thing."
Yes, how foolish of me. I must have misheard. Mr. Gennadios, I hope you don't mind me saying it, but I have to do my job, even though it pains me very much to do so right now. I wouldn't want to offend you in any way.
And you will do your job to the best of your abilities outside of this house. And he will hand him the wooden funerary portrait.
He says, "Oh, are you giving this to me?"
And more awaits if I appreciate your work.
How does he sort of debase himself right now, indicating that he is going to comply with your wishes?
I imagine the classic drop to the knees and the kissing of the feet.
Does anybody else see this? Or is it just between you and him?
Ives is in the room, isn't he?
Indeed. Mr. Turner, what are your thoughts when you see D.I. Pettigrew absolutely debasing themselves before Mr. Gennadios right now?
Intrigued and very confused.
He crawls out of your sight, Mr. Gennadios, and he says, I won't trouble you any further. And he turns and he leaves. Scar the reflection. How does the statue change?
The feet are a little more, a little less veined. They look more clean.
Indeed.
Is it scarred because I'm there? Is that why?
No, it just anytime Mr. Gennadios does anything like this, the reflection changes. So, or just does something villainous or monstrous. Let's have that moment between Mr. Turner and Mr. Gennadios, with D.I. Pettigrew having left.
I knew you had an effect on people, but I have never seen such a thing in all my days, Mr. Gennadios.
Well, perhaps you merely need to live longer than Mr. Turner.
You're not famous or something, are you?
Fame is one word for what I am.
How intriguing.
I am like you, not without my secrets.
I can see that.
Dr. Tagore, you hear bits and pieces of the conversation, and whoever came into the house, you hear them leaving. You're just about wrapping up your work. What do you do then?
I wasn't aware it was Pettigrew. I didn't hear Mr. Turner's sort of loud.
You might have put together that it was Pettigrew, just because you know D.I. Pettigrew, you worked with him.
Yeah, my thought was to try and bundle the bewebbed corpse of Mr. Blackwood into the same crawl space where I've got Dottie's reconstruction, and shut the door behind that, like close it off so that it's hidden.
Yeah, you could be doing that. We'll have one more round of scenes before we wrap up the day phase, so we can kind of advance the day a little bit here. Mr. Turner, anything you'd like to do?
Can I examine it for some supernatural type
body.
things? Yeah, the body.
Yeah, if you want to do that before Dr. Tagore bundles it away, I think that's fine.
Mm.
And Mr. Janagos, what would you like to do?
I think if he's not needed at the house, maybe he'll slip away to go consult his statue.
Intriguing. What does is that part
As
of
I
the
have the cosmic passage marked.
Oh yes, that's right. And for you, that's really different because it allows you to, whenever you gaze upon the masterwork and attempt to uncover something hidden in the world, you roll and you can get a clue. So yeah, that's good. Okay, we like that. And Dr. Tagore, what about you?
In stashing this body in the same space as Dottie, it seems a ripe opportunity to have a little conversation with her about how close we are to completion.
Actually, I think that would be a really great opportunity this might be a nice opportunity for Mr. Turner to discover Dottie, right? Because Mr. Turner might be coming back in to investigate the body, but you've already like stored it away and nobody else knows about this secret space. And so he might just overhear you speaking to Dottie. I think that'd be fun if everyone's into that.
Yeah, I like the idea of me going into like the infirmary to see the body, and maybe like I hear the voice of Tagore like up in the ceiling or wherever the
Right,
this thing, and being like, what the?
Yeah. I like it. Well, why don't we start then with Dottie and Dr. Tagore then? That sounds good to me.
Well, Dottie, I'm sorry to put you out like this, but I need to share your chamber with another body for the time being. This is Mr. Blackwood, Dottie. Mr. Blackwood, I think, was a guest of Hargrave House for just a moment. I don't really know, and now he's in this state you see. But his loss is your gain, as I have this lovely fleshy heart, ripe and ready, revivified for your revivification. Dottie, so soon, we're nearly there. Just hang in there just a little bit longer, and then I'm also going to arrange for some lovely garments for you. I have met a seamstress that I think is just the right one.
Mr. Turner, you overhear every bit of this from above. You might even see the ladder going up into the space. What do you do?
There's no door, right? So I think I just yell out, knock, knock, Dr. Tagore.
What if I've left something ajar that you can peer through, like the door's not.
I like that. Yeah.
Oh, so we just see like my eye between the seams.
Yeah, you see Dr. Tagore having this conversation. You see the two corpses, like all that. Yeah, or one corpse and one construct.
Maybe
there's an assembly of body parts that's been in a Hargrave House for some time, clearly.
Maybe the door creaks as I open it, and I say, Dr. Tagore, do you care to explain yourself?
Oh, it, I'll like blow out a nearby candle. um, nothing to see here, nothing to see. And then I'll come creeping shamefacedly out of the dark and say, Mr. Turner, I'm so sorry for my deception. I've this is an important project I've been working on. I feel like I'm close to having the ability to sort of break the mortal coil and bring life back to dead tissue, and that's what I've been working on and all this time. And I think you, of all people, with your understanding of the supernatural, may realize that there's more out there than what we know. And just for the sake of science alone, I have to do this. But I would really appreciate it if you tell no one.
Well, you've certainly seen my darker side, Dr. Tagore. I could hardly place any more blame on you than currently you're feeling, of course. But I would caution you, because the bringing of life, what if the soul doesn't follow? I know all too well what happens when souls are in question.
Is the soul just seated in the brain, though? Isn't that really? I understand your theology a little bit, but I have my doubts.
Well, regardless of belief, I think that you should use caution. Who knows what will become of your venture?
True.
In any case, I would like to investigate the body a little bit further for signs of my own.
If Detective Inspector Pettigrew is out of the way, we can certainly bring the body back out into the infirmary. I just felt it was prudent to get it out of sight.
Oh, he's quite out of the way, yes. He has the strangest relationship with Mr. Gennadius, and I have no idea what that might even be.
All right, well, then give me a hand. Come in. Give me a hand, and we can move that body back. I'll rekindle a light so you can see the inside of my little secret laboratory.
Awesome. We'll come back to that investigation, Mr. Turner, but that was a good scene. So, Mr. Gennadius, according to your cosmic passage move, you have to, what triggers it here? Whenever you gaze upon the masterwork and attempt to uncover something hidden. Give us the sort of preamble, though. What is your arrival at where the statue is held like?
Like last time, there's a reverent hush that falls over the attendees at this small art gallery, and he will just walk by, barely giving them any mind, and make his way into the back room where the statue is held. I think he'll just walk right past the curator that he previously had interacted with and close the door behind himself.
Go ahead and make the roll, unless you want to describe the process of gazing, I suppose. But it's with sensitivity.
That's a 7.
You will get your clue, but you will also have to scar the reflection. Let me take a look at the clues. There's only one threat to get clues from, so.
He will be seeking and running through his memory about anything Fae related to see if he can learn something.
Yeah, absolutely. And just taking a look at the clues real quick. Ah, it's not so much a memory that's striking you, but I think there's a small window, um, like a skylight that lets in daylight that shines directly down onto the statue. And the skylight's open, and a trail of moths begins fluttering down through the skylight, and the room is covered with moths, a unattractive bug, if there ever was one, gray and brown and just fluttering about, landing on the statue, landing on you. And that's your clue. What do you, well, how does the reflection change? Maybe the moths hang out, I don't know.
Yeah, I think wherever the moths had landed, when they depart, they will be slightly pitted in just little pocks.
Nice. Mr. Turner, you are investigating the body of Mr. Blackwood. How are you doing so?
Let me see what I've got in my tools here.
Surely something from the cupboard would be helpful.
Yeah. Oh, but I think I've used it all. Since the autopsy's already performed, I don't think I need to use the things that I have. But maybe I'm using different things like the lavender ash charcoal sticks and holy symbol of Mach, and basically just going through the body with these items to see if they react in some sort of occultish way.
Yeah, I like it. I assume you're just going for the information move here.
Yeah, I just want to know what could have happened.
Yeah, of course. If you mark one of those items, you can take the roll at advantage.
Sure. I'll use the charcoal. I needed it too. What was the stat again?
Well, it's probably sensitivity. Yeah, go sensitivity.
11.
Okay. I'll grab you a clue. Interesting. Okay. I think I know what I want to do here. As you are performing this ritual, you've got the charcoal sticks, you're maybe making some markings, you have the ash. These are two very important ritual components. You should maybe even be doing this in the ritual chamber, to be honest. You're doing all this, and quite suddenly, the husk of Mr. Blackwood begins to essentially, red roses on the vine begin to grow from within the husk, and they wrap the body, and all we see, they just take over, and it's just a bunch of like red roses growing wildly over the remains of Mr. Blackwood. And that's your clue. And I think we'll end the day phase there. Let's go to the phase switch off. It's the dusk phase. Let's talk about playbook moves. Dr. Tagore, you have the option of doing night work and or the resurrectionist if you wish.
We'll send the resurrectionist out for some lungs, and that's gonna pull out a clue. Is that right? I gotta remind myself. Yeah, we'll just go with lungs and no blowback again, I think. And then actually, wait, no, we're about to try and resolve some things.
Yeah, you got two active threats that are ready to be resolved.
Let's take the grave robber Harley along with us for this upcoming night phase.
Oh, okay, so there could be blowback for getting the lungs then.
It could be blowback, and we've got a possibly expendable Mr. Harley with us.
Very good.
In case we need him.
I love it. And I think that's the only relevant move right now at this point.
Yeah, and it seems like we need to solve things. I shouldn't do the night work with Scotland Yards. I think I'll skip that.
Let's go to. Oh, wait, say that again, Brian. What'd you say?
Not doing the work with Scotland Yard. Rather being available to help solve.
Do we have any paint the scenes left about Hargrave House? We have one. Or possibly two. I thought we did the kitchen already. Did we do the kitchen? Because it existed before the house, didn't we?
Yeah, we did the kitchen.
Yes.
Yeah, I thought so. We haven't done the gardens though. Kind of appropriate. Maybe you're moving Mr. Blackwood out there. I don't know. Since he's covered in roses. Being in this space, the gardens, is like being totally disconnected from the stink and grime of London. Is that reassuring to you, or does it make you feel uncomfortable, and why? It's for everyone.
Alexander would find it reassuring. It's reminders of a quieter time in the world and a better smelling, well, sometimes better smelling one.
Probably uncomfortable because I like to walk the streets. I like to beacon. Ain't no beaconing here.
Will you give me the prompt again, Jason? I'm sorry.
No worries. Being in the gardens is like being totally disconnected from the stink and grime of London. Is that reassuring to you, or does it make you feel uncomfortable, and why?
Yeah, for me, it's a good respite. It's a kind of a calm tranquility, a reminder of the power of nature to heal and grow.
Good. Everybody says what they're going to be doing tonight, and then once everyone has spoken, everybody can make a revision if they wish. I will go in the order of reverse order of the sheet. Mr. Turner, what are you going to do tonight?
I want to try to learn more about the seamstress by doing a ritual, and I think the ritual would be planting the body in the gardens that we just discovered. And then I have at a player level, I'd like to probably use that as an opportunity to die.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
You'd like to get to see the end of Mr. Turner.
Well, because it makes sense, because for one, Mr. Gennadios just saw me witnessing him do his thing, and it would be kind of like a little climactic. And then also it makes sense to go out butting heads against another power.
Interesting. I see. Intriguing. Well, it's your choice. I mean, you can always make that last mark. So what about you, Mr. Gennadios? What are you going to do tonight?
I was thinking of maybe closing the Whately camera loop, but maybe it could be cool to be there when Mr. Turner does his thing.
A witness,
A
witness me
witness.
kind of situation. Yeah, intriguing. Dr. Tagore, you might be on your own in resolving threats tonight.
Yeah. I just have a question that I don't think is going to occur here, but in general, is it possible to solve 2 threats in one night or no?
It would be really unlikely just because you don't normally get to move around that much at night.
Right.
The Explorer can. The Explorer actually has the ability to like extend the night phase, but we don't have the Explorer. So,
Okay. Got it.
yeah. I suppose it
Ooh.
depends on how you describe what you're doing, though. I mean, theoretically, it's possible, I guess. But...
Yeah, I was more curious about game mechanics if it explicitly says that can't be done or something.
Oh, no. The only rule is they can only be resolved at night. That's the main rule. So
okay. A little torn. I feel like it seems like Drew, you would want Mr. Gennadios in on resolving the Whately camera.
That does seem very much up his alley.
Yeah, and Cromorn Gardens has really been pursued more by Willoughby and Mr.
yeah,
Turner.
that's been very much Willoughby and Mr. Turner's thing, huh?
Yeah.
I actually think that we might have resolved that last time completely. I have a recollection that Sarah and I answered that question and actually rolled, and then we were correct about it.
Yeah, but you haven't actually like gotten the fish man to go away. That hasn't happened yet.
The pirate lover's still about.
Yeah. Like you figured out exactly what's going on, but you haven't like come up with a. If I recall correctly, you haven't come up with a way of like actually like dispensing with it. So.
Well, maybe I should then leave those dangling and do night work and pick up a clue regarding the seamstress.
I don't think so. Did you resolve the creature of Cromorn Gardens? Why can't I remember?
Because the question and it makes sense. Resolve it by luring it to you or destroying it, and I thought we chose the latter, convincing it to go back wherever it came from, because we were promised it that we would destroy the mastermind, and we had the answer that we made was that it was the lover of the mastermind previously when she was a pirate and she had thrown them overboard.
I just don't. Yeah, I remember that. I remember the answer. I just don't recall if you actually did the deed.
I thought that
I
we
think you
had
wanted,
convinced it.
I don't remember. Well, in any case, we'll review last video because I just couldn't recall, to be honest. But we'll just kind of set the creature of Cromorn Guards aside for now until we figure that out. That actually means, bro, really, in truth, since that means there would have been 3 active threats regardless if it wasn't resolved. So there was actually no danger of a new one being introduced. I don't know why I made a big deal about that earlier, but we'll just set it aside for now until we can get some confirmation on there. It sucks that we had like a 2-week break and I don't recall. So Sarah might remember actually, but
why don't we have me do night work then, and I'll gather some clues on the seamstress.
Oh, okay, all right. Okay, cool. So it'd be night work, and then Mr. Turner and Mr. Gennadios doing rituals, maybe starting in the ritual chamber, moving into the garden. Any changes? Is everybody good with that? Okie doke. In that case, let's go to the next thing to do. Are there any Janus Mask prompts that need resolved? I don't think so. And so with that, it's just the unseen. If you want to follow along, we are going to be doing let's do that one. We haven't done any of the nights at the Grand Guignol yet, have we?
We did one.
We did the Baker's Son, right? Yeah, we did that one. In that case, let's go to the night shift at St. Thomas's, which is on the top row, third one over. Sitting across the Thames from the Palace of Westminster, St. Thomas's Hospital is London's newest hospital, purpose-built to the most modern standards of medicine. It consists of sprawling wings joined by covered walkways, allowing convalescent patients to take the air during the day. But at night, a skeleton crew struggle to save their charges from the illness, accidents, and violence that stalk the gloom. Because night work is in play, Dr. Tagore, you do literally all four of these. So Brian, this is all yours.
Yeah, about that part. All right.
Yep. So this is what you get to do tonight. And even paint the scene. And then, because you're doing it all, we'll take a 10-minute break to give you time to think, to go over it and think about it. But then we'll get going. So let's take 10. A night shift at St. Thomas's. A destitute woman is in the throes of a complicated birth. A porter holding her down while a surgeon prepares to operate. Brian, how do we know the child will never meet their birth mother?
Often the shadows nearby, kind of around the corner, discreetly, a small discreet distance away. There's a wealthy couple along with a wet nurse, waiting for this child to be born, washed, swaddled, and then handed directly over to them. It goes into a pram, and as the evening goes on, this pram is rolled into a palatial gardens as they head off to an estate.
So, Mr. Turner, where does the ritual begin? Are you starting in the ritual chamber?
Yeah, that makes sense, like preparing it for the burial or something like that. Like,
Yeah.
maybe what I'm doing is sort of booby trapping the actual body and then placing it in the garden to try to connect it to the to what's her face, the seamstress.
Mhm.
And so trying to hurt her in that way.
And Mr. Gennadios, are you there in the ritual chamber while Mr. Turner's making his preparations?
I think perhaps he is, though not necessarily on an invitation. He will hear or know something is going to happen and make his appearance shortly after Mr. Turner begins his work.
Yeah, I like it. So if we look at the ritual chamber move, presence and sensitivity scores are increased by 1, no maximum, and everyone who is there right now as well gets the tainted condition. This, unless you intend to mark the mask of glamour, Mr. Turner, this ends your character. So maybe not right at this moment. We'll play out the rest of the phase, but unless you intend to mark the mask of glamour, you got to mark the last mask of the future, because you have no more space in your conditions.
Right. Okay, so I guess I'll mark the glamour one because I'd like to go out in the garden.
Okay, very, very good. The Mask of Glamour. Let me read that to you all.
So does that tainted subsume?
It takes over one of them, yeah.
Okay, and I can choose which?
Yep. Well, not Most Beloved, but anything else. Each hunter will narrate a flashback to a time when they peered through the veil and glimpsed another world beyond this one. This is for everybody, even Dr. Tagore, who's not in the scene. Be thinking on it, though. We can do it during the dawn phase. You don't have to do it right away.
Can you say it again?
Yeah. Each hunter narrates a flashback to a time when they peered through the veil and glimpsed another world beyond this one. Mr. Gennadios, you will also take the tainted condition.
Isn't that only if I benefit from it?
Well, the benefit is your score increasing. So that, yeah.
Okay.
And so, yeah, the preparations are interesting. So you're making your preparations. What do the preparations involve again, Mr. Turner? What are you actually doing?
Let's see. So it needs to conform to one of the effects, right? Of the rite?
Yeah, well, and also you have to do the perversion of Christian rituals as well at some point.
Right. So let's see. Observe. Ooh, I know. As punishment, as I see it, for her intrusion into the house, could I try to make the ritual trap one of her little creatures in her shop?
Oh, like trapping one of the sisters Sindula?
Yeah.
When you say trap them in the shop, like just like where they can't leave?
Yeah.
Oh, I like that. You can trap them both. That's fine.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Sisters Sindula are kind of a one unit, I think.
Sure, I will.
So what do the preparations look like, though? What are you doing to the body?
Perversion of Christian. Oh, maybe what I'm doing is doing, what's it called? The rite that priests perform when a person is going to die, right before they die, to prepare them.
Last rites?
Yeah, last rites. Makes sense. I'll do the last rites, but I'll pervert it in such a way that instead of going to maybe the perversion is not forgiving the sins, so I'm sending like the person's sins as sort of like a time bomb or something at them.
Oh, intriguing. Mr. Gennadios, how do you feel about all this? You're tainted. What is about this whole experience that's affecting you in that way?
Death is not something he's overly familiar with in an like, it's very mechanical. People are here and then they aren't. Seeing Mr. Turner kind of utilize death in this way will be very intriguing and kind of disturbing to him.
And to further refine on what I was saying, I think what I'm doing is the sin eater thing. Then is I'm removing the church aspect completely, and instead of my consuming the sins, I let the body like choke on it with the salt and the what's the other bread is I think what you use in it, and so I put it in the mouth and let the body like choke on it, and then I'm gonna send it to her.
Intriguing. Let's go back to St. Thomas's. Brian, in the casualty waiting room, the experienced ward sister Mary O'Brien triages the sick and wounded. Who does she see, and will they live or die?
There is a seamstress, a mundane seamstress, not one of these Sindula sisters, who's basically just given herself a nick, but a nick that became infected and pus, gangrene, all that gross stuff. And the sister, Mary O'Brien, she's treating the wound with a new technique that she's heard about, cleansing it with carbolic acid, in the hopes that Dr. Lister's theory is correct and that this may prevent the infection from spreading and leading to loss of limbs or loss of life. And in this case, it will actually work. The carbolic acid will clean the wound and the seamstress will live to sew again.
Indeed, indeed. So I think we can fast forward to the garden now at this point. Your intention is to bury the body in the garden?
Yeah, bury it, and then um, I'm assuming my assumption is that the plants that are growing are like fey-like or whatever. So I'd
Okay.
like to plant it like a bush and then burn it.
Okay, very good. So you're doing these preparations. Mr. Janice, what are you doing in the meantime? Just watching? Anything else?
I think watching, and if Mr. Turner asked for a hand with the shovel, he'd grudgingly assist.
I think at a certain point while you are hanging back, maybe after you've moved the body and after you kind of help a little bit and leave Mr. Turner to his ritual doings, you will notice a shadow crawling on the backside of the house. A small shadow. There is a child, perhaps, crawling along the house like a spider on the outside. What do you do?
I pick up the shovel and kind of wield it like a bat and say to Turner, I believe we have company.
You hear the voice of the Limehouse lurker. He drops down. He says, "There's no need for violence, youngling.
I believe we have a difference of opinion there, friend.
You can continue your work, Mr. Turner. I will not bother you."
I'll maybe shoot a look to Janadius to get confirmation before I start the ritual.
He'll give a slight nod and lower the shovel, but not let it go.
The little boy standing next to you, Mr. Janadius, while you both watch Mr. Turner doing his work. And the boy says, "I was there, you know."
I have no doubt, but where are we speaking of this time?
"I was there when the first Fae managed to cross the threshold into our world. Something about the
And
world changed on that day.
for good or for ill?
Well, for good, depending on your point of view. They are delicious."
I wish I could say I were surprised.
Yes, so much power. Their magic is very old, very wild, difficult to contain. I'm not sure what Mr. Turner hopes to accomplish.
And what do you hope to accomplish with all of your dining?
I have grown bored of the world, youngling. I find the only thing that satisfies, is the taste of greatness, to literally consume the great and powerful in such a way that they become lost to the void of nothingness. Yeah. It satisfies me for a moment. It makes me forget my listlessness, my boredom.
I've heard of a woman in sapphire with propensity for greatness. Perhaps she may whet your appetite.
He smiles. No. Miss Brathwaite serves a much grander purpose than that. She is of use to me. She thinks I am of use to her, but it's quite the other way around. Let's go to St. Thomas's. Brian, the young nurse, Agnes Pell, walks the TB ward, silent but for the labored breathing and hacking coughs of her charges. Who do we see among the gaunt, pale patients that shows death respects neither age nor rank?
There lying in the bed is a young, high-ranking military intelligence officer, and on his lapel of his pajamas is pinned a Tudor rose. And as the priest is performing last rites, they realize he has just passed on and unpin the rose and hand it off to the priest.
Mr. Turner, let's have your die roll. Sensitivity.
Sure. And I'd like to burn it with unholy water.
Okay, very good.
I imagine lights like gasoline. And that's the last witch's cupboard thing. Oh, only 7 plus 3 is 10. And then I guess it would be 11 because it's, would it be heightened in the?
Your sensitivity is higher. So
well, 11 anyway then.
Full success, no drawback, all the effect. You will be able to trap the Sister Sendula in the shop. What does that look like?
Ooh. So I think what I've done is I have dripped like a trail from the ritual chamber all the way to the bush, and then made like a little pool around it of the unholy water, and I light it. And as it burns, I'm staring directly into the flames and doing my wild mutterings of inverted Catholic text or something. And maybe at the same time, the place where the sisters are also goes alight around it and maybe consumes the foliage around that's like wrapped around it, and that's what symbolizes they're being trapped. And then I want to mark the blood-soaked portal.
Go ahead and mark it. We'll see the conclusion of that the next scene. Mr. Gennadios. The Limehouse lurker says, he's altogether more interesting than you, Mr. Gennadios.
I wish that I could argue.
Oh, you concede then that Mr. Turner is a creature of greater cosmic significance than yourself.
I care not for the cosmos, luckily.
Well, I think that you should look upon him one last time. I have seen many timelines, and I know where this one ends.
You said there'd be no violence.
Not from me. Fear not, young one. I'll hold your hand if you need me to.
He scoffs and just keeps watching Turner, but he's going to look a little more worried than he did.
Brian, as dawn begins to break, how do we see the staff dealing with the stress of the night before, knowing they will be back again soon?
Some of them wash their hands to that point that, the skin cracks and bleeds, kind of too obsessed with cleanliness. Others go to speakeasies still open at dawn. Some buy freshly baked bread because they're getting off the night shift. The bakers are just pulling the first buns out of the oven. Some of them pocket vials of cocaine and arsenic from the hospital's pharmacy. And then a few, as they're walking home, just in frustration or anger, throw rocks at young waifs they see on the street, just harassing them, passing on their own frustrations.
Mr. Turner, the blood-soaked portal has opened to you. Narrate a scene in which you are physically destroyed.
I think what it looks like is sort of existential dread madness type thing where he's like looking into the flames and the flames maybe turn like white hot, and he sees the face of his angel there in the flames as the bush is all but consumed, but the fire is still going. And maybe he literally steps into it, into the flaming portal.
Mr. Gennadius, how are you feeling?
I think he will. Well, does he see this? Like, is this what he would see as well?
I think so.
Probably looks a lot more like a crazy person.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Just walking into fire, basically.
Yeah.
He's going to rush, not super fast, but he's going to move forward and attempt to intervene here.
The boy takes your hand and says, "No, stay. There's nothing you can do, young one. And furthermore, the death of Mr. Turner firmly ensconces you into your rightful place in the city."
He'll spare a quick glance at the lurker before turning back to Ives. He doesn't want to miss us.
Scar the reflection. How does the statue change?
It smells of smoke.
And I'm going to give you a condition as well. It's going to be the smell of burning flesh, specifically Mr. Turner's burning flesh. And as dawn breaks, the embers of the fire are dying down. Mr. Turner's remains, we see just a jawbone and some ash. The Limehouse lurker is long gone. Mr. Gennadius, what do you do? Dr. Tagore, you might even be coming home at this point. What do you all do with Mr. Turner's remains?
Ooh. Can we salvage his lungs?
I mean, you'll get those from, you can get those from Nightwork, or the Resurrectionists. You can get those from the Resurrectionists. So.
Right. I'm just, he shall
incorporate a little bit of it. No, there's nothing there.
Right.
No.
What do we do? I feel like, given his occult and esoteric nature, we should try to retain his essential salts here to kind of gather all the ashes and bone fragments together in case he's got a way to come back that we don't understand. I think that's what Dr.
Maybe
Tagore would
the,
do is, I've read tales of wizards supposedly bringing themselves back from the dead. Mr. Turner might do this, so I'll try and preserve his remains.
in the vessel the unholy water was held in, perhaps?
That's great.
So concludes the night phase. Let's go to dawn. No rewards. Let's go to dawn questions. No questions, no threats resolved. Let's just go straight to Dr. Tagore. Did you experience an echo in the night? The rose. I picked up on the rose thing that you did, so you can take an XP for that. You did have a conversation with the child. And did you dismiss the possibility of the supernatural explanation despite everything you've experienced?
We didn't really get into whether the autopsy on the spider body or spider web wrapped body was supernatural or just really powerful spiders. So not really.
Yeah. Mr. Gennadios, did you experience an echo in the night?
Was going for with him trying to not assist, but help Mr. Turner in his last moments, like the nurse, but he was stymied.
Mm. Yeah, it's bad. Yeah, I'm kind of into it. Let's go to the next one. Did you let someone touch you and then make them pay a price for doing so?
They will.
Do I? Oh, yeah. Well, I thought the detective, I thought that was actually a pretty good, in the spirit of it, kind of scene, because he's so debased himself, before you. And the price he's paying is he's not doing his job, right? At the very least, I think you should take that one. Mr. Turner, you are retired, so XP is not super relevant here, but I'm just curious as a point of order or interest. Did you experience an echo in the night?
I don't think so.
Did you have a face-to-face encounter with the dark entity? Yes.
Myself.
Did you counsel someone using your supernatural affinities? Yes, you did that. You chatted with, I remember distinctly thinking, oh yeah, he's doing that right now, with Dr. Tagore, if I recall correctly. So that, but Mr. Turner is hereby retired. Let's go to.
Can I ask a quick question?
Yeah.
In terms of echoes in the night, I tried to put the last rites in echoing, but Turner's the one, or Fraser's the one who
has to
created the last rites.
Yeah, but it was beforehand.
Right. That's kind of my question. Is to receive the echo in the night, the player has to have the tangent or the echo after it's been voiced in the night phase.
Yeah, I mean, because it's a reward for like doing something cool, right? I mean, so like basically by you doing that, you were just getting another one, but you only need one.
Okay, so it's going to me, not to him. Okay,
yeah,
interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Let's go to Mark New Dawn questions if you wish. Resolve any playbook or custom moves that are resolved during dawn phase. We have night work to do, so I think if it's okay, we'll just do the clues next time. Just remind me, Dr. Tagore, and I'll give you the clues next time. And then you can take your lungs as well from the resurrectionists if you wish to do that. And Janice mask prompts. Everyone needs to do the Mask of Glamour, the time that you looked into another world, including you, Mr. Turner. Maybe it's right now, I don't know. But in any case, whoever wants to go, take it away.
Yeah, I like the idea that it's from his perspective, he's going into like the world of these angels, whatever that may be, and it's the same thing that he saw in the flame when he was young and prayed for the first time, and it was a glow and he saw an angel. So he's just entering the space that he saw. ostensibly.
It's good. Thanks. Wants to go
You know
next?
the Holly Festival where there's colored powder kind of thrown to celebrate. I'm picturing Dr. Tagore as, kind of a young man about to embark on his professional career, attending the celebration and just getting like a double eye full of pigment, like magenta in one eye and saffron in the other, and trying to wash it out, to scrub it out, and then realizing that he's seeing something that's not of the physical realm. It's There's something spiritual happening in that moment that he doesn't quite understand.
After Mr. Gennadios had encountered or had experienced being on the wrong side of Hargrave House, he took quite the devastating sword wound, to the point that he was closer to death himself than he has ever been. And he will swear that in a moment where he was perhaps hanging by a bit of a thread, he saw something waiting for him, but it did nothing more than make him more resolute to never go back there.
Thank you. And with that, we'll just move straight into stars and wishes. So I have loads of stars and wishes for today. I'll start, in fact. Quite a few things. I really star for the scene between Mr. Turner and Dr. Tagore about the child. I loved that scene. It was really, really good. Just your dialogue that you guys were doing was really great. And that's how I kind of always imagined that scene playing out when I kind of put that in the game. And so I really enjoyed that. A star for Brian. Brian, you always do such a good job of like relating your character's past to their like culture, right? Which I think is really good. I think it just really helps make the character feel really grounded in a real world culture, which I think is terrific. Star for Drew, the DI Pettigrew scene. The whole thing with Giveth is there's supposed to be just the undeniable in general. There's supposed to be this very, very like quite intense, like kind of BDSM erotic subtext that goes on with the undeniable. I wrote it that way. And I just thought that scene was so great. It was just so jarring and so like on point for the undeniable. I thought it was really terrific. And I'm glad you kind of pushed it into that space. And yeah, star to Fraser for like really embracing the blood-soaked portal and just kind of angling for that. I think that was great. I loved it. I thought it was an interesting end for Mr. Turner, and yeah, it was good. We're in this place where like a lot of the characters are kind of wrapping up their story arcs. Dr. Tagore has just finished The Child, for example, and so that's something that's happened. Mr. Gennadios had nearly finished up the scarring and reflection, but that advancement clears all the scars. Now that's actually optional. It's not super clear, but you don't have to take that advancement if you wanted to leave it scarred and push towards that. But I suspect we can continue the campaign after post Theodora. By the time we pick up the campaign again, there will be new masterminds and new threats and new playbooks even. So if you want to clear the reflection and continue playing Mr. Gennadios, I think that's a cool thing to do. Advancement's limited, obviously, but you still can, keep the character going. And I guess that's my wish. My wish is I'm really curious to see like how the story has changed next week and what the implications of all these things are. Fraser, if you want to join us again, you're welcome to play the American or the Explorer if you want to dive in there again and get a new character started. And yeah, those are my stars and wishes.
Yeah, I I really liked being able to have him go out in an interesting way. And yeah, for the I did I was interested in doing an explorer. So I'm glad that we're gonna continue beyond Theodora, because I wasn't sure. I was like, well, if I did the explorer now, is it just going to be kind of like whatever? If we're just gonna wrap up with Theodora, there's no real point maybe to being the
No, there'll be
explorer.
another mastermind after Theodora.
Oh, okay.
It'll be the rear admiral that helped explore the Northern Passage and came back a changed
Oh,
man.
awesome. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, then I'd love to do the explorer. And then yeah, I really liked the scene with Brian and with the Tagore. And it also just made like a lot of sense for like if it was happening in a TV show, it made a lot of sense for Turner to go out that episode too, because he saw a whole bunch of stuff. Like he saw the child, and he saw um sort of got a clue as to what was going on with Gennadios. So it feels like very satisfying for it to go out like that. And it was interesting. At first I was curious to see if Drew was gonna do an undeniable thing with how I was going out, but I think there wasn't really an opportunity in the way that Turner goes out to deny it. And then also it's more interesting to suppose that it was possible, but he didn't too, maybe.
Well, that's what the Limehouse Lurker was like. I mean, basically, the Limehouse Lurker was like, "Let it happen," and Mr. Johnny said, "Okay." So,
Yeah, yeah. So I like that, and yeah, it was just a fun session. And then Wish, I guess, just to see what happens with the mastermind stuff, and also kind of what the seamstress will do, because I intentionally provoked her very deliberately.
well, and her henchmen can't leave the shop now, so that really hinders her in a lot of ways. So, yeah.
Yeah, it was just fun. So yeah.
Yeah, who wants to go next?
Jump in. I like that Fraser, that you'd said that earlier. You said fate was a force against which you could butt your head. And then I don't know if you had it planned from the get go, but within this session, you did meet your fate. It was pretty amazing. Jason describing Blackwood's eyes as withered nuggets was visceral. It worked really well. And Drew, your use of giveth with the detective pedigree, and then I can just picture you sort of standing there, even without the Limehouse Lurker, standing there with Mr. Turner going off into the flames with kind of a like, who's most beloved now?
I think that was the idea when the Limehouse Lurker was like no, like this is your chance to like not feel so insecure anymore vis-a-vis Mr. Turner, right? So
yeah.
I was going to give another star to you, Brian, for doing the unseen, the whole unseen. I thought that was great. You asked off recording, you'd asked about like why the night move is structured that way, or the night work move is structured that way. And was something I forgot to say. This is probably the most the overarching reason, which I'll say now, is of all of the playbooks, none of them is more integrated into London at night than The Mother, right? The Mother is the most like thematically connected to the dark streets of London at night. And so it's sort of like it's almost like a nod to that by letting the Mother player have that kind of control and input over the city, right? So it's a nod to that as well. You did a great job.
I've got a wish to throw out.
Sure, yeah.
I hope somewhere down the road I have the opportunity to use the old bones move on Hargrave House and contact the ghost of Mr. Turner.
That'd be fun. Yeah, that'd be really good. Yeah, you have his literal bones in the house. So, Drew, do you want to do stars and wishes?
Stars for Yeah, Mr. Turner's bowing out. It was such a good scene, and I liked that with the lurker there. So this is both for Fraser and you, Jason. With the lurker there, Alexander was not able to make it all about him, which is good for Alexander, probably. And also just Dr. Tagore being caught with the body. That little interaction there was just so. It was charming. It was great to see that little moment of kind of levity, but it's also super dark.
How
So
interesting that Mr. Turner discovered both of your like horrible secrets and then died. You know, like
there's a price. He knew too much. And yeah, just seeing the lurker again and having him just show up, it says a lot about his capability to just insert himself where he wants, and that is menacing and creepy in excellent. For wishes, I am looking forward to seeing, Fraser, what you come up with next for our little crew, and also how Willoughby will respond to this event.
yeah, we'll have to definitely give Sarah a chance to memorialize Mr. Turner in some way with Willoughby. I think that would be appropriate to do. So fantastic. Well, if there's nothing else, I will go ahead and stop the recording.